Hey YouTube, it's CJ with Roswell Astronomy out of Roswell, Georgia. Sorry I haven't put a video up here lately. I was waiting for some clear nights in order to get the mount and the new mini computer and get everything up and running. I did have the occasion, I believe it was last weekend. I pulled everything out and I was having some technical difficulties trying to figure out what was going on, and it was just user error. I figured it out, but it was user error. And by the time I figured it out, my objects for the night had already gone down past my point of viewing, so it would have been a worthless video anyway. So hopefully tomorrow night or Sunday or Monday night, I'll have some clear nights and a couple of days off in order to hook everything up, get it running correctly, and then I'll do some videos. I know a couple people are interested in seeing how that G11 is going to track, and also the new telescope, the new ED-127. So hopefully that'll happen this weekend. I'll get some videos up for that. In the meantime, I've had a couple of friends, were asking me what kind of software I was using. I've got a buddy of mine here in Atlanta that's starting to get into some imaging. And he's come and he's asked me, he's like, well, what software are you using, and how are you doing your acquisitions? How are you getting your pointing? How are you using telescope control? And so I've been talking to him about that, and I was like, yeah, you know what? I'll just throw it out there. It's always good conversation when you get on cloudy nights and you ask somebody, well, what software do you use for your image acquisition? And everybody's got an opinion. And everybody's like, oh, this is the best thing since sliced bread, and you got to use this one, and nothing else compares, and if you don't use this, yada, yada, yada. And, over the course of when I first started several years ago a couple years ago in astroimaging, I bought program after program after program and didn't do enough research. So if you're just starting out, maybe this will help. If it doesn't, take it for what it's worth. This is my opinion. And these are the programs that work the best for me. And the reason behind that is because I like simplicity. I like automation. There's some, software out there where you can write your own code. It's open source. So you can write your own code to do different things. And I'm just not that technical. I can run a computer, and I'm fairly technical in my job, but that's just not for me. I like things to be pretty simple, and this is the software that I use for simplicity's sakes, and it just makes sense. It's just easy for me to follow. So the first one I was talking to my buddy about was Stellarium, and Stellarium is a free downloaded program, planetarium program. It does have telescope control on it. If I can see and get it open here. It does have telescope control on it, though it's kind of minimal for what it can do. It won't plate solve or anything like that, but this helped me immensely starting out. And one of the biggest things that it helped me out with, before I had learned where star locations were and what the names of the stars were, I had this loaded. I had Stellarium. They have it for mobile phones, and if you hold it up, there's a little button you can push, and it's real time. And so as you're pointing the phone to wherever it is in the sky, it'll show you exactly what you're looking at. So when I was first on the Celestron, when I was first trying to do alignments, when I was doing 3 and 4 star alignments, I would see the star, and then I would hold up my phone with the Stellarium program, and I would say, oh, there's Aldebaran, or Capella, or Rigel if it was far enough up in the sky, or Betelgeuse, or whatever. And then I would program that into the keypad, and it would slew over there. I would center it, click a line, go to the next star, and just go back and forth, and then finally polar align. So it's very helpful in that. It shows you deep sky objects as well. It also has a search feature. You can go in and search for a specific object, and it'll show you where that object is. One of the things I liked about this is when you go to zoom in, and I would say the majority of what you see when you zoom in will actually give you a picture of the object you're looking at, as well as star placement. And this was very important for me when I first started with a DSLR, because I didn't have plate solve. I would the way that I would frame the picture with the DSLR. Because if you're not lining up, if you're not reading star charts, or if you're not lining up by the stars, you know, you're hoping that the telescope slewed correctly to where it's going to be, but it may be off. You know, the edge may be here running this way. So it's close, but it's several arc seconds off. And the only way that I would know is I would have to take a long exposure to figure out where I was at. And then I would have to nudge, you know, the mount over, and hopefully I went into the right direction. I've sometimes gone this way, you know, and I'm completely gone. And other times I went up here and I was completely gone and off the object, and then I'd have to, you know, recenter the scope again or tell it to go back to the object because I would be so far off. And that's when I realized that they actually have the star placements here. So I would look at the stars, take a live shot of through the scope with the DSLR, and then count stars. And I would say, okay, there's one bright star here, there's 3 bright stars here, like a little handle, and then there's partners right there, and then another bright star in the middle of the nebula. And that's what I would use in the very beginning. That's how I figured out where my object was, and it helped immensely, and it cut my framing time down considerably. What used to take me 45 minutes sometimes even an hour to get something framed where I liked it, you know, just by doing the star tracking, star hopping, learning where the stars were in relation to the nebula, you know, cut that time down to 15-20 minutes. But that still took a long time. You know, so when you figure you're taking 30-45 minutes or an hour to get your mount and your telescope and everything set up, figure another 30 minutes or more getting aligned and doing your polar alignment, and then you're figuring another hour, you know, for framing and get everything set up. So you've basically blown 3 hours, sometimes 4 hours of dark sky time trying to get everything lined up and moving. But I'm glad I did it because it makes me more appreciative of what I have now. And what I went to for my acquisition software, because originally with the DSLR, with the Canon, it came with a Canon EOS. And then when I went to a one-shot color with Attic has its own acquisition software as well, but again, not with a lot of buttons and whistles. After talking to several people, they'd recommended Sequence Generator Pro. And I was like, oh, you know what? I already have this open. Sorry. I got two versions of it open here. And one of them was going to open. And what I liked about this was it took a lot of the guesswork out of what I was trying to do. Not only did it control my camera, it also, well, once I moved to mono, not only did it control the camera, it also controlled the filter wheel. I've since gotten a auto focuser. It also controls the focuser, and it controls the telescope. And originally I had my Celestron in here. Of course, now I've got the G11. So it would run all this for me, taking it out of my hands. And of course, that real nice thing right there is that moonlight focuser. And a big thank you to Chuck, Chuck's Astrophotography, because I saw you get this and use it, and I said, you know what a great idea. And I bought the exact same focuser. So thanks, Chuck. I'm just copying you. But that's a lot. That happens a lot in this hobby, is we see other people using different equipment or trying new things. We're like, yeah, you know what, that makes sense, because they do the videos, which makes it easier for us, right? And yeah, just huge thanks to you, Chuck. Really appreciate you, because when I got SGP and when I was setting up my camera and my filter wheel and my drivers for Moonlight, I just kept watching your videos. And if you haven't checked out Chuck's channel, it's Chuck's Astrophotography. He makes things very simple, very easy to understand, and very, very appreciative. But okay, so back to SGP. So the other thing I liked a lot about this program is that it has a framing and a mosaic wizard. And all you had to do was just put in your object number. It would pull up an image of it. And as long as you filled in your camera's information correctly, for your pixel size as well as for which scope you were using, you could literally tell it or show it what you wanted, and it gives you this box, and the box is in relation to your field of view according to your camera size, your camera pixels, and your telescope. And you just center up wherever you want to put it is going to be where that telescope is going to slew to. So once you've created your sequence, and you can do mosaics and all sorts of really cool things in here, and it will take care of all the programming. And you can change your size on it in order to, the larger the number you go, the smaller the picture, the bigger the area. But what it would do is you can set up for your mosaics. Now, I have not tried mosaics yet, but based on what this is showing me so far, it looks like it's going to be pretty easy to do. There you go. So there's the whole heart. And at that point, you can sit there and set up if you're wanting to do a mosaic. And then when you go to create the sequence, you just create the sequence and it will set everything up for you. And then basically, you're good to go. I mean, it is literally that automated. It is that easy. So it's created a total of 9 targets here. And they're all set up. And then you just set up your filters, or if you're doing it in one-shot color, you just set that there. And I believe if this is one-shot color, you only have one choice. But in this case, I'm saying, my luminous filter, put in however long my exposures are, and then however many times I'm going to run it. And then literally you run sequence. And at that point, it takes command of your telescope. It slews it over to the coordinates. So it knows where the scope's at, and it takes it over, centers it up. It does a plate solve. And the plate solve, and this is probably now a bad example with doing all this with the Mosaic Wizard, but it'll take that frame, it'll match it to a plate image that it has in the database from the star catalogs, and it will line it up perfectly. So there is no test shot, adjust, test shot, adjust, long exposure, adjust, going back and forth and back and forth. And I got pretty good at it towards the end, but this is just so much easier, so much more simple to do. It just makes life so much easier. It gives you more time at dark sky sites or even in the backyard. There's more time for imaging. Anything that gives you more time for imaging, in my book, is an advantage. It's just an awesome thing. Post-processing software, so that covers my planning, using Stellarium for my planning, Sequence Generator Pro for my acquisition and plate solving and telescope control. After that, you get into post-processing. There's other free software that's out there. The first one I ever started out with was Deep Sky Stacker in order to stack the images and to load my flats and my biases and my darks. It is a fairly easy program. It pretty much runs itself. It does a really good job on the information that's already preloaded. Sometimes you can go in and do tweaks or change things. A lot of good videos that are out there for tweaking it, but it's very, very easy. You're literally just loading in your files. You just pop them in there, and it automatically loads them. And once you select them, and you can score them, if you really want to get heady into it, or if you're just starting out and you're like, hey man, I just want to get one picture, kind of like that awesome golf shot. I just want to get that one picture to prove to myself that I can do it. Well, Deep Sky Stacker is perfect for doing that. And you can save it. You can even do an auto stretch on the end of it and get a semi-decent image. Of course, you got to do more post-processing after that, but just to get you up and running and for free software, this is excellent program to use. From that point, I started using Photoshop, and I've used Photoshop years and years and years ago when it was actually easy to use. And now to me, it was just so cumbersome, and I spent the money for it. And it seems now it's not like you can just buy the program. You have to buy like the rights to it monthly, and they really try to push that monthly sale thing on it, and that just didn't appeal to me. I tried a free download of it, and I just found it very cumbersome, very, very difficult to operate, and I just did not like it. So then I was doing some reading and I came across Star Tools, and so I bought Star Tools. It is cheaper than some of the other programs out there for post-processing. It looks like it's fairly easy. You're just basically kind of going down the lines, but I also found it cumbersome, and it to me it was clunky. It doesn't mean they didn't support it well. They actually had great support. I've sent some emails in before to Evo and immediately got replies back on what to do and what to try. They're very, very supportive of their software. I'm sure if I gave it a lot more time, I probably could have mastered it a little bit better, or at least understood it a little bit better and got some better processing out of it. But when I started in the narrowband, it was very, very difficult to process the narrowband, and the LRGB was a little bit difficult as well. And I had expressed this to some guys at the Astroimaging channel, and they said, no, you're, great tool, easy to use, but the majority of those guys was using PixInsight. And PixInsight offers a free, I believe it's 45-day trial to test out their software and see if you like it. And initially, it was very intimidating to me, but there are just so many videos out there on PixInsight, just tons of videos on PixInsight, that after watching it for an afternoon, I was actually able to process an image fairly quickly. And it's a little bit more kind of Windows look to it, a Windows-based look to it. And when you go in and you're looking at the scripts, and it has its own stacking software in it, which I think does a better job of stacking than Deep Sky Stacker does, especially when you're putting in your calibration frames. But it takes a long time. It takes a lot more time to process for stacking than, say, Deep Sky Stacker, but I think it does a better job. And the processes look, again, very intimidating. But again, there's a lot of information online on YouTube on how to do some very, very basic processing. And as you go along, you can test and play with different processes in order to get different effects. And I just liked it. Again, it seemed like it was very easy to manipulate and to figure out. And it was just more, to me, it sounded like it was more intuitive. And in all honesty, and even some of the guys I've talked to on the processes, I probably only use 10 different processes, maybe 12. And some of the guys that are a lot more experienced than I am do about the same thing. They're using just a few of these. They're not using all of them. And some of these things actually will duplicate others just in a different way. So it looks intimidating, but to me it was just a lot easier to follow and to understand. So that's what I use now. So Stellarium, to figure it out, what I want: Sequence Generator Pro for the acquisition and the telescope control, which is very nice. And then, of course, I use PixInsight for all my post-processing. Now, guiding, of course, I don't even know if I even have to mention this, but PhD2 guiding. I think everybody uses PhD2. I think there's some other software out there that has its own guiding built into it as well with the acquisition software. I've never tried it. I don't know. Excuse me. But PhD2 guiding was free. It's a free download. They have it for Windows as well as Mac. And when I first started, this is probably important to point out. When I first started, I'm a Mac user. I love Mac. I work on Windows at work, but my personal computers are Macs. And trying to find software for a Mac in astronomy is very difficult. PhD2 did come with a Mac. I originally had bought Nebulosity for acquisition and stacking purposes, which worked fine for the most part, but it was clunky on Mac and it would crash often. And I realized I just needed to go ahead and get a Windows laptop and use that laptop as a dedicated astroimaging laptop. And so I went out and bought this Lenovo with a solid state drive. And all this software is more Windows friendly, as well as the ASCOM is more friendly and it works a lot better, and it doesn't crash like a lot of the programs I was using on the Mac. PhD2, excuse me, push here dummy, very easy to use. I've since learned how to tweak it, how to change it a little bit, so I can get better tracking, so I can get longer images out of it. It's very well supported. Lots of videos on YouTube on how to use it, how to set it up. So I'm not going to go over that with you, but I use this for my guiding. Stellarium, same thing. They do have the Windows for it. They have the 32 and the 64-bit as well as for Mac OS. Same thing though. Even with Stellarium on my Mac, occasionally it would crash. Don't know why. It would occasionally crash out or freeze up, especially when I was using it to control the telescope. But on the Windows, it's very, very stable on the Windows, especially in the 64-bit. Excuse me, my allergies are killing me. Sequence Generator Pro. Again, they have a 45-day trial period on the Pro version, and you can save your photos. They don't watermark. They don't keep you from saving, so you can take full advantage of it. The only thing it does not come with is the Framing a Mosaic Wizard. That is a add-on. So once you've purchased SGP, you have to purchase the Framing a Mosaic Wizard. But other than that, it comes with everything that you see here. Deep Sky Stacker, again, free download. Very intuitive, very easy to use. Lots of videos to help walk you through it. PixInsight, excellent. Great for post-processing. Lots of videos, easy to understand if you just watch the videos, and then you just learn and you move from that point on. Star Tools might work better for you than it did for me. There's a free trial for it as well. I don't remember if you could save off though. I cannot remember if you could or not. But again, very well supported. There's different modules. There are some videos that are out there on YouTube, not as many as what you would find for PixInsight, but there are some that are out there. And it does give you more of a written understanding or tutorials online on how to use them. But again, to me it was clunky. And the amount of time I spent processing images on Star Tools, I've done in literally half the time with better results using PixInsight. But again, it all depends on how you learn and how you do processing, as far as like processing in your mind how things work. A lot of people that I have talked to love Star Tools and they hate PixInsight. And then there's people that love PixInsight and they hate Star Tools. And then there's some who use both. And they'll work it in one and then transfer it over to the other. And then some people even then take it over to Photoshop in order to do their final processing. Not a fan of Photoshop. Everything that I do, I finish up with PixInsight, and I'm good. That's as far as I take it. That's just me. Again, I like things a little bit easy. So that's what I use. If you have any comments, suggestions, or if you have other software that you found to be really easy to use and to work, by all means, throw them down in the comments. I'm sure it's going to help somebody, and for that matter, I might even check it out myself. But before you go sinking in a lot of money in all these different programs, do a lot of research on it. Watch all the YouTube videos that you can, and learn what is going to be easiest for you to use. You can always get better with more and more practice, but it's also easier to start with something that is intuitive and is capable of helping your learning curve, if you have one. Now, if you're a genius, you're miles past me. And again, I'm more of a visual person rather than a reading type of person. I just get more out of actually seeing it in action, and that's what I loved about YouTube and these programs, was that people have a lot of YouTube videos on the PixInsights and the Sequence Generator Pro, and that just made it a whole lot easier, as well as the PhD. So I hope that helps. Again, I'm really hoping to get out and get some clear skies and get some imaging time in this weekend. And I will give you all some results on tracking information for the G11 and let you know how the new scope's working out. All right. Hey, thanks for your time, guys. I hope you all have a great weekend and I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. And we'll see you later.